Share. What's going on, Coaching Collective? Welcome back to week 18, video 18. Last week's video didn't save for some reason, so this is week 18. Today, we are going to go over mental guidance of athletes 101. This should be an 18. Fix that real quick. We're going to go very deep into the brain and thought process and neurological functions of our athletes, especially when they are making very aggressive lifestyle changes. The main example client we are going to use for this is a obese client who needs severe weight loss and changing their habits and their thought process around it. But you can paint this for any athlete who's going from one extreme to another or just changing their entire lifestyle and their identity. Cool. Let's dive in. So weight loss and obese clients. I think the game is all mental for all clients, but I think the game is all mental specifically for weight loss and obese clients. Typically, these individuals, they've found themselves in the position that they're in through an elongated practice of lifestyle habits. We all get that, right? You're not going to be 300-400 pounds by a year's worth. Well, you could do it in a year, but more oftentimes than not, this is 1, 2, 3 decades worth of habits that have been instilled and ingrained in their mind and their subconscious and their belief systems. So the best approach for these type of clients usually doesn't have much to do with the actual application of fitness sides of things. It has everything to do with the mindset approach. And I find this for pretty much all clients is the best approach is a mindset approach. So with these obese clients or any extreme client, they see their situation as the problem, right? The problem for them is that I'm overweight, I'm a victim, it's impossible for me to change this, I'm helpless. And that gives them a much easier slope to slide back down. Does that make sense? When they deem this is what I'm doing and this is the actual problem, they're projecting outwards that there's something that's affecting them instead of they're actually the ones that are the cause of that in the first place, right? So there's no ownership there. There's no accountability, and therefore there's no power for them to actually be able to change it in that headspace. These are the number one clients, at least for me, these are the number one clients I've found that self-sabotage are the aggressive weight loss clients. But why? I'm so glad you asked. Let's dive a little bit deeper. So identity around the problem is the only real problem hurting their adherence. And what I mean by that is if their problem is I'm overweight, or their problem is it's impossible for me to do this, and I'm sure we've all had clients there, they're ingrained in this is the problem that I've had my whole life. It's always been a problem. It's always going to be a problem. And we need to focus on helping them rewire their internal language. And this is, I want you guys to really hone in on language, because language is going to be the number one battlefield for these types of clients. How they speak is how they will identify and how they will act every single time. That's the same for all of us, actually. Our goal is to reframe problem into challenge. That's our goal for them every time. We want to change problem into challenge. And then from there, we can change it into an opportunity. We are not going to have success if we try to go straight to a problem to an opportunity. If they go, man, I can't lose any weight. And we go, well, let's talk it. Maybe you have an opportunity to lose weight, right? That's not gonna hit somebody who has three decades under their belt of saying, this is my problem. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the reframe work is doable, but it does take a little bit of time to be able to actually apply it so that the client is going to execute it the way that we need them to for their success. So problem has to go to challenge first. And so here's an example of what we're going to do to see that. So the example problem is your client saying, speaking, and identifying what a problem is. Oh, every time I'm around X, I always lose control. Who's had a client say that before? Pretty much everybody. Yeah, it's impossible. And we're going to use pizza. Every time I'm around pizza, I always lose control. If that's the narrative, if that's the language that client is saying, and they've deemed that as the problem, and they've identified that as part of them, when your client finds themselves around X, their subconscious and their ego is fixated on the identity around the narrative, and it's going to act in accordance. That which we think we will become is a great quote. So our egos play a huge role in a lot of things that we do, and your ego is attached to identity. Your ego isn't I'm the best. Your ego says, well, this is what our identity is, and this is what I've attached to, so I need to act in accordance with this identity. So for them to be around pizza and not lose control, it would be an attack or a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a threat to the identity that they've kept for themselves for 30 years if they're 3 decades deep. Does that make sense? So their subconscious goes, no, there's the pizza. It's always been there. This is what we do. This is who we are. You need to eat it. You need to lose control. So moving a step closer, the subconscious nurtures any seed that we plant. Now, I did this, a couple of you guys here were at our team retreat, but I'm going to do this visual again. Pots, right? And if we plant a beautiful flower or poisonous flower in 2 pots of soil, the pot does not care what seed it is. The soil does not care what seed it is. It's going to nurture it and it's going to grow that seed into fruition. And the soil in the pot, that's our subconscious, right? The subconscious doesn't know the difference between positive and toxic. It doesn't understand a negative. It just grows the seed regardless. So by switching our clients' language so that they're planting new seeds, that's crucial for their longevity in the program. The number one thing to remember with these types of clients is our goal is to help them get out of their own way. We can't help these clients. We actually have to, this is just my opinion, obviously, we cannot help these clients. You cannot take somebody who has 3 decades of abusive eating, overweight eating, who has been told they're a fat sack of shit, been laughed at everywhere they walk for their entire lives. You cannot just get in there as a fitness coach and say, hey, here's what you do and it's going to fix it. Does that make sense? Does everybody understand what I'm saying? Like, you can't just sit there and hand them a ticket and say, dude, just follow what's on this paper and all of your problems go away. That's not going to register in their subconscious, and therefore they'll never be able to stick to that. So we have to reframe their thought processes, reframe the way that they think and talk to themselves so that they can get out of their own way, because we actually just have to help them see that they're the cause of everything that's happening in their life, nothing else. Is everybody still with me on that? Cool. Bringing awareness to their negative talks or explanations in their check-ins, and then offering reframe solutions should be prioritized. So if your client goes, I'm getting so frustrated. I feel like I'm doing everything I can and I'm just not getting anywhere. It's never going to work. Right? Okay. So what you're doing right now is focusing on the negatives. You're focusing on what you don't want to happen. And therefore your brain is focusing on only that. So what do you want to happen? Let's reframe it. Instead of focusing on what you don't want to be happening, what do you want to be happening? Well, I want to be feeling my clothes tighter or looser. Okay. What else do you want? I want to have more energy. Okay. What else do you want? Right. So now we start reframing their mind to start processing what they do want as opposed to what they don't want. Are you still with me? Remember, subconscious is all about seed plants. It doesn't differ between negatives, right? If I say, Aaron, don't focus on the Oreos that are in the cabinet, your subconscious goes, okay, focus on the Oreos that are in the cabinet. The don't doesn't register in the subconscious. It does not register negatives. It just registers what the goal is set for it. Make sense? So that's why the language that our clients say to themselves is super freaking important. And remember, they're having to unlearn first. We can't just go in and say, this is what you do and this is how you make progress. We have to unlearn everything that they have engraved in their belief systems for the last X amount of time in their lives. That needs to be the first step before we can start planning any new information for them to actually start making progress. Make sense? A reframe example. Problem. I can't ever be around pizza without losing control and binge eating. It's my weakness, right? A lot of effect here, right? The pizza is what affects this person. They're not understanding that they are the cause for the pizza in the first place. They're the cause for the binge eating in the first place. The client's not registering that. And they're going, well, the pizza is actually what's causing me. So therefore the pizza is affecting me, right? There's cause and effect. And when we have our clients that are living on the effect side, it's our goal to reframe them and understand they're actually on the cause side of everything that they're doing. So the challenge reframe, to reframe it into a challenge in their subconscious, is I usually have a hard time being around pizza, but I'm determined to break that cycle, right? Because now they have an action step and now their subconscious says, I'm going to break this cycle. I'm breaking this cycle. That's the new reframe that they start to focus on instead of I lose control of pizza. Make sense? Yeah. Opportunity reframe. I'm going to be able to go out, learn to control myself around pizza so I can have it and still achieve my goals. If you notice on the opportunity language, there is not a single negative associated with anything. It's not, I can't be, I'm losing control, a hard time. It's nothing. That's a complete reframe around opportunity. You guys get what I'm saying with this? Yeah. There's stepping stones to get the client psyche to be looking at things this way. We can't immediately reframe a problem to an opportunity in most cases. There needs to be an ease of progression for the client to adapt at a subconscious level. Something that's really cool to think about your subconscious is that it has kept a track record of everything that's ever happened to you since you were in the womb. Everything. So we're taking all of that. It can remember it crystal clear. So we have to take all of that and readapt it to something different. So you're talking 30 years. I don't know why I keep going back to 30, but we're taking 10, 20, or 30 years worth of play-by-play activity in the subconscious to trying to rewire it. We're not going to do that by handing them macros and saying, follow this. So I'm going to start helping them with progress is stacking up very easy wins. And this is something that I've done with any aggressive weight loss client I've ever had, or somebody who's severely under eating, or somebody who's just a very, very big extreme. And we're trying to take them to another one is instead of going balls to the wall of here's your program, let's hit it nonstop. I just start by stacking up super easy wins for them week by week. So majority of weight loss clients will see progress for very minor tweaks to their routines, right? We get that. I think I've used this example before of a client that I used to have who was like 5'2". She was 210 pounds and she would like not drink water. She would only drink Coca-Cola. And like to the point where she would open a can before she went to bed and she would leave it on her nightstand. And if she woke up in the middle of the night and was thirsty, she'd drink Coca-Cola. We had to replace 3 Coke cans with 3 bottles of water for the week. And she lost like 12 pounds. Like it was freaking nuts. I don't remember the exact weight, but she lost like double digits. And I was like, what the fuck? I didn't change anything else except I was like, yo, drink 3 bottles of water and your body will thank you. And what happened with her is that she got super, super motivated, super fast because we didn't overwhelm her. We didn't automatically go and threaten her whole identity of this is how you've been doing your whole life. We're going to immediately change the entire thing. Make sense? So I just said, hey, drink 3 water bottles a day. Okay, I can do that. Next week, hey, let's just try to make sure we're eating 4 meals a day consistently. I don't even care what the meals are. Let's just have breakfast, meal 2, meal 3, dinner. Maybe then we go to 5 meals. Go outside and walk for 30 minutes a day. And then each week with these extreme clients, if we just add 1 to 2 smaller goals, they're quickly going to adapt and it starts to reframe into a new lifestyle while also giving them dopamine hits for achieving a goal. Make sense? So you stack two new small goals a week. By the end of 2 months, they've got 16 new habits that they're doing that don't feel like they're habits at all because they're 2 little things a week. And now their entire lifestyle has basically changed without them even having a chance to register what's going on. It's very easy. It's very seamless. And on top of that, they're getting results and they feel like they're not doing crazy different things. So now when we go, hey, yeah, you've been getting a ton of results just by doing these little things. That's great. Now let's do some bigger things. They're going to be a lot more ready and receptive to jump in and actually execute. Yeah. Cool. Dopamine is our friend. There was definitely 2 or 3 more bullet points here and I don't know what happened to them. The reward system for achievement is something our human brains are hardwired to thrive on. We are hardwired as human beings to get dopamine. So if you can stack these up and small challenges in the beginning, the more the client will start to want more wins and actively adhere to seek them out. It's literally an addiction. We are addicted to dopamine. So if we can, and like we have coping mechanisms, that's why a lot of people go for like fast foods or like sweets because they trigger certain parts of our brain for the reward system instead of us doing things to achieve them. So if we can start changing those coping mechanisms of what the clients are doing to get dopamine to healthier habits, then we're going to help the client as a whole. So it's not about getting rid of coping mechanisms that they have. It's about replacing and reframing the coping mechanisms to different mechanisms that are actually going to benefit them, but they'll still get that same dopamine hit. Everybody still with me? Cool. Self-sabotage. This is one almost every client is going to get into, but specifically these clients. And this is more than likely going to be a mountain you and your athlete need to climb during this journey. I always like to think of self-sabotage as like the devil on the shoulder of athlete who's overcoming the lifestyle obstacles. We can also see it as the ego who's trying to say, hey, don't do this. This is way too far outside of what we've always known. And they try to convince you to come back to what you know is comfortable, right? Upper limit theory. You have a dial that you've been set at your whole life. If we start to crank up the heat, you're going to want to crank it back down because that's where you're comfortable. So this self-sabotage voice in their head is convincing them that they can't achieve X or don't deserve Y. So they act against the progress they're seeing, and they don't have an explanation as to why they even did it in the first place. Have you guys had clients come to you and be like, yeah, like I was in the kitchen and I just like ended up eating a whole box of cookies, and like I literally don't know why. I wasn't even hungry. Like they were just there. I ate them, and like I knew I didn't want them, but I just like I couldn't stop. And they're like, what the fuck? That's why I always like to say the devil. I'm like, the devil on the shoulder, man. He grabbed the steering wheel and he drove you over there because you were getting too much progress, and it made that old version of you uncomfortable. So it had to turn the car around. Hey, come back. We're getting too far away from what we identified as. We need to keep you here, because again, these people for a very long time have not only been telling themselves, but have heard from other people probably like, you're fat, you're worthless, never going to do this, you can't stick to anything. And if we have repetition of that in our brain and our subconscious for an elongated period of time, that's how we're going to start believing. That's how we're going to start thinking. That's how our reality is going to start being perceived by us. So anything that differs away from that, we're going to want to resort back to our comfort zone. Make sense? So I find the best practice here for self-sabotage, there's two heads, and I'm going to do self-sabotage in regards to foods. More oftentimes than not, the overweight people have like triggers, and Chelsea actually went over this in the disordered eating call. We're just going to retouch on it. We can either have them eat a little bit of the trigger every single day until it loses its power, because 9 times out of 10, we like romanticize a certain thing, right? Like just kind of talk about pizza, like, oh man, every time there's pizza around, I go crazy. So I have to stay away from pizza altogether. And then pizza becomes this golden unicorn that every time we see it, we go, God, I haven't had pizza in 6 months. I want to eat 5 large pizzas because, I've already had 2 pieces. At least I'm already this far. I already fucked up. I might as well eat the whole thing, so at least I'm satisfied, and then I won't do it anymore, right? Those are the thoughts that people say and convince themselves. I'm already here. I might as well get what I want out of it. Then they feel like shit, and the process just keeps repeating it. But if we go, yo, hey, for meal 3 every single day, I want you to have 2 slices of pizza every single day. They go, what? I can't. Yeah, I want you to have 2 slices of pizza every single day. I almost guarantee you, if you had 2 slices of pizza every single day for 2 months, you're probably going to be over pizza. I mean, I wouldn't be personally, because I fucking love pizza, but the pool for you to want to gobble it all up is going to be gone, because you start reteaching and reframing your subconscious to go, well, this isn't a scarcity anymore. I'm going to get this every single day, right? You don't see a tube of toothpaste and go, oh my God, I need to brush my teeth right now. I might not get this anymore, because you brush your teeth every morning, you brush your teeth before you go to bed. There's no scarcity from there, right? Grass versus gold. You see grass, it's whatever. You see gold, you go, oh shit, I need that. So if we can shift them to not being as scarce assets, they lose their power over us pretty much 9 times out of 10. Or we can remove all triggers from their environment until they've built up enough momentum and the speed wobbles have stopped, right? Because remember, when we're shifting anything big, like a whole lifestyle change, it's like pushing a freaking freight truck from a dead stop. It's not going to be a smooth thing. There's going to be a massive push that needs to happen out of the beginning to get that truck to start moving. And then as the wheels start spinning more and more, that momentum starts to build, and we don't have to push as hard, and it starts flowing. Does that make sense? So when we initially start this, if they can't control themselves around the triggers, or they're too far gone, so to speak, removing all of those things out of their environment, because out of sight, out of mind, and just allowing them to do some work and stack up some little wins like we talked about, build the dopamine, start having that reward system, changing some habits. And then from there, we can go back and start reintroducing those triggers small, little at a time, once they've built some confidence in themselves. Remember, triggers are usually a prison for us. We give our power to triggers. That's why they're triggers. We go, that's more powerful than I am, and therefore it controls me. So if we can reframe them, we can control them. This is where the matrix starts to come in. We have to understand their reality, not ours. not anybody else's. We have to understand the athlete's reality. Our perception of reality is actually just a projection of the way that we personalize and process information in our brain. Our reality is only, this is real shit. Our reality is only 0.006% of what's actually going on in the world. Our conscious mind is what perceives the reality of what's going on outside of us. The other 99.994% is filtered in the subconscious mind. We don't think about it. You, at any second, I want to say it's like 9 billion bytes of data get absorbed into our brains every second. Every single second, your brain is intaking 9 billion bits of data and information. Now, when that information comes in, the brain has 3 immediate functions: delete, distort, and generalize. Basically, it'll delete the information that it doesn't deem valuable or necessary for you. It'll distort the remaining information based off of the way you interpret information, your belief systems, your thoughts, your mood. And then from there, it will generalize information. So, example of this, we see a guy walking down the street and he kicks a dog. That hasn't actually happened yet in our reality until we process it in our brain and we go, oh, okay, that's bad, right? Kicking a dog is bad. I know that I'm a good person because I don't kick a dog. So therefore, that guy must be a piece of shit, right? We distort and now we generalize. That guy's a piece of shit because kicking a dog is bad. We don't know any other context over what we saw and how we process it based off of our own beliefs. Make sense? And don't get me wrong, kicking dogs is bad. But what if the dog was attacking him? You see what I'm saying? But their perception of their own reality is going to be filtered completely different from ours because of their belief systems. So we're going to go a step further here. Right here. Like I said, information comes in and it's interpreted based off of a multitude of variables: the time, your mood, your decisions, your beliefs, your language, your values, your identity, your memory. All of these things are what we do to perceive our reality. Now, which one of those that are listed above do you think is the most powerful? I would like somebody to answer. Between time, mood, decisions, beliefs, language, values, and identity, which one of those is the most powerful for how we shape our reality?
I feel like I'd say identity.
Yep, 100%. That is correct. Identity is the number one most powerful filter that we use when we are perceiving our reality. Because remember, perception is the projection. Our perception of reality is the projection of how we're interpreting information. This is the same thing for your weight loss clients. So we have to shift their reality by changing the filters, and their filters, identity is the strongest filter of our reality. So if our athletes are identifying as the nobody, the piece of shit, the overweight person, I can never stick to anything, that which we think we shall become. If they identify as unworthy, they're going to self-sabotage because they don't deserve to make this progress. That's what's going to be happening in their brain. If they identify as unmotivated, they're not going to perform. So our goal is to reframe their identity filter so that their perception of reality changes. Are you guys with me on that? Yeah. So like let's go back one slide here. So if our information comes in and it's interpreted based off of the time, mood, decisions, beliefs, languages, values, and identity, also memory, I just didn't write it. Like an example of this is, let's say this. Let's say I call up Aaron at 1 p.m. I go, yo, Aaron, I'm outside, dude. You want to go work out? He'd be like, I mean, it's middle of the day. Like, I'm kind of busy, but like, sure, dude, no problem. Now, let's say I show up on Aaron's doorstep at 1 a.m. and I knock on the door and he gets out of bed and he walks down and he goes, what the hell are you doing here? And I go, dude, what's up, Aaron? You want to go work out? How different is that reality for Aaron? Right? Because the time at which he's interpreting that data, his mood is going to be different, right? And his belief system is it's fucking 1 a.m. You're insane. So his interpretation of the reality of what's actually going on is going to be significantly different than if that situation happened at 1 p.m. Does that make sense to everybody? Kind of like what I'm trying to say there for an example. Cool. So being able to understand that every single athlete or just literally every single person uses these filters, and they're their own personal filters to perceive the reality of what's going on around them, in my opinion, is one of the most important things of data that we can have as coaches, because our goal is to help people get out of their own way. And if we don't understand how they're filtering reality, We're not able to get them out of their own way, right? So the matrix, here we go. If our perception of reality, or your clients who are struggling with weight loss, if their perception of reality is merely a projection based off of the way they personally filter data, and the way that they personally filter data is based off of personal belief systems, identity, language, memory, etc., that means that their reality is personal. Reality is subjective to the individual, and if reality is subjective, that means that we can change it. Everybody get that? That one's a little deep. That's a little bit deep of a rabbit hole. Does everybody understand what I'm kind of saying there? Yeah. We just have to lead our athletes down the path to have that realization for themselves. So when it comes to the severe weight loss clients or the severe clients who are completely one side of the scale, we have to understand that they have perceived the reality that they're currently at, and they're unable to see anything different until we can get in there and we can change the filters at which they're seeing things. Oops. Then we can change the filters in which they're seeing things. Make sense? Cool. So wrapping it up, humans are immensely complex organisms, especially when we start dealing with the brain and its millions of functions. 90% of the battle is in the mind with all of our athletes. We have done a lot of great videos and information here. In my opinion, obviously that's a very subjective opinion of mine, but I think we've done a lot of great videos here for knowledge of how you guys can actually serve your clients and get them results. But that is not the hardest part. The mind is the hardest part. And this has been proven to me over the years and may as well be written in stone, in my opinion. Like 90% of the battle for anybody's physique changes is going to be in the mind. For severe weight loss clients, we must slowly change the filters that they subconsciously use to filter their reality. We need to help them get out of their own way, plant new seeds, new belief systems that'll continue to compound with their momentum towards success with you and the program. Because if the client wins, we always win, right? If you can get a weight loss client to lose 20 pounds, that's great. If you can get a weight loss client to completely reframe the way that they speak, think, and perform in their lives, they're going to lose 100 pounds, 150 pounds, and they're also going to be able to say how much you changed their entire life. That's advertisement in itself, and that's going to get you more client. In my opinion, whenever I have helped somebody actually truly reframe their mind, that has always been the clients who want to go and preach the most. The physical stuff is super easy, but when we can really get in and reframe how they think about problems, themselves, perceptions, that's when we start seeing those changes that'll last forever. And then the client becomes super easy and super fun to work with. Any questions or comments?
Yes. Have you ever gotten any pushback from clients when you implement like the very small change? Like the only protocol that they have is to have like the 3 bottles of water.
Like, have I gotten kickback? I was like, yo, I need you 3 gallons of water. They're like, I can't do that.
Like, no, more like, that's literally so small. I'm making like this significant financial investment to only do that.
So I think also what's important to understand is that when they throw like, or when client goes, I'm spending all this money on you to get me in shape. Well, no, you're not. Because money, in general, is what we deem to add value to something, right? Money itself isn't the value. Money is something that we trade for value. It's our perception of money that gives it its value in the first place. But if a client's going, man, that's all I paid you for, like, no, you paid me to help reshape your entire life. And here's the thing is if somebody is going, hey, I want to do more than that. Okay, great. Prove to me that you can do this, and this week, and then we'll talk from there. And if they don't, okay, great. You've been doing it your way for 20 to 30 years. It's time for you to do it my way so that I can get you out of your own way. And it's really important to understand, like when you're coaching somebody, I'm very close with all of my athletes, most of you know, but when I am coaching an athlete, I am not their friend. I am a coach. You guys are here to get people results and get them out of their own way. You have to reframe their life. They go, man, I could be doing way more than that. Okay. Show me you can do it this week first then.
Yeah,
That's the
that
way
makes
I would approach it.
Yeah.
Show me that you can make this. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that it presents challenges with adherence with even like the small things like increasing water week by week, you know.
Do you struggle with that with a couple of clients right now?
Yes.
You want to give us some examples and see if we can help reframe them?
So we do things in trainerize like a lot of people do. And the way that the business is set up, they're always set to have 10K steps and a gallon of water. It's just how it is, like automatically set for everybody. But I have, you know, people that literally can't get 128 ounces. So I lower that to be a little bit more manageable and increase it, you know, by 10 ounces every week. But then we hit that threshold where they can't hit even like the 80 ounces or 90 ounces.
Do you know how they're drinking their water in the first place?
No, but I should ask because like I do provide, you know, tips and tricks like larger canister or in smaller.
See, I was actually gonna just personally reframe the opposite.
Okay.
Like, because you have a big canister, like for me, I forget. Like if I don't have, this is just me personally, if I don't have something that's see-through, I don't like, I forget that I haven't been drinking water because I don't physically see the water. That's my own personal way of doing things. But my success with people that are really hard with drinking water is I will tell them, I want you to do one water bottle like every 90 minutes, like set a timer. Every 90 minutes, just one little water bottle. Because it's a very easy task. They know, like, it's enough for them to sit there and like be conscious of it, right? Like, oh, okay, it's 90 minutes. Let me just drink this water bottle real quick because I gotta fucking do this for my fucking program, right? Like they can get annoyed of it, but it's not a big enough jug where they go, I can't finish all this right now. A water bottle is enough where they can kind of like, you know, chug their way through it to get it done, even if it's with annoyance, and then reset their timer. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And then like, I know a lot of people have preached, like, if you drink water with a straw, some people just drink water a lot better or a lot more water when they're sipping it through a straw. Not me personally. Yep. See, there you go. All right. Some people like ice water. Some people like room temperature water. So really it's just kind of about like, okay, like why do you have a hard time drinking water? You know, I found the water bottle and the timer is the easiest to just get them in the habit of drinking. And then from there, we can start reframing that into, hey, like get a, 32 ounce canister that you can refill and then drink one of those every 3 hours.
Yeah,
right?
that makes sense.
What's that?
I said, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, cool. Any other questions?
Yeah, I got one. So not necessarily on mindset, and if this is for another call, like you could tell me to wait. In a call you did very, very early on, you talked about like if you're counting macros or you're starting a regimen for someone that like has, let's say, over 100 pounds to lose, you're at some point concerned about carb intake just because of that size, and so you'll sub some of that for fat just until like they lose like maybe 20, 30 pounds and like their risk for, and I forgot what you said, something like lowers. So again, this is very like based off memory off like, I think it was like the third call you did. Does that sound familiar at all? Like if someone's 400 pounds, you're worried about their carb intake being a little too high because of something, and I forgot what it was. And then like once they lose a little bit of weight, then you're like, okay, now carbs can come back up.
I'm actually not really too worried about that. So that just might be a mismemory jog by one of those past videos, maybe just flawed information. I'm not sure exactly why I would be concerned about carbs being too high. I mean, I'm obviously not going to, throw somebody on 700 grams of carbs, but I've had plenty of weight loss clients, 300 plus pounds eating, I've had a couple of men eating 450, 500 carb for, a good couple of months, being severely overweight and them making plenty of progress. So it sounds like there might just be a skew of information that like got jumbled or something. If you want to go back and
out of context, and I'm just like misremembering. So you would do the macros the same way you would do anyone else then?
Yeah.
Like at least starting macros.
Yeah. Okay. If they're not, well, what I would do is if they're not like tracking food, which they're probably not if they're that
No.
heavy. I would just have them do a food log for like 2 weeks, see like how many calories they're eating consistently throughout the week. You know, you can add all the days up, divide it by 14 and get the average amount of calories that they're eating per day. More than likely, it's a lot more than they need. We could, you know, shave a couple off. We could add a little bit more depending on, you know, where they're at. And then from there, you can do your own macro breakdown with those calories and then put them on a set intake consistent for a week or two and see how they respond. And then from there, we can make tweaks based off of response or lack of response. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's perfect.
Cool. Any other questions?
I think I vaguely, so I think when he was asking, I think I vaguely remember, because I think it was my question. It was about my client that was losing like over 100 pounds. And you had said something like, it was like, if their intensity in the gym is not high enough for them to need that many carbs, I think you said that you wouldn't give them that many. Does that make sense? Because like they're new in the gym, so like their intensity doesn't require, like they can't utilize the carbs as well.
Yeah, your guy was having a hard time training, or like he wasn't training that hard, or what? I don't remember.
No. That was like a while ago. It was like a few months ago. But my guy at the time, he was like, we're lowering his carbs, and I don't really remember what it was honestly, but I do remember you saying. I think what I remember is you were saying something along the lines of, if his intensity is not high enough, then you won't give them that many carbs because they're not used to the gym. Like they're not experienced enough in the gym to utilize that many carbs.
I see what you're saying. Again, I don't know if that's the full context or not. Like, it's not that I wouldn't give them, because like I feel like just for people watching the video back being like, oh, I wouldn't give them a lot of carbs. You were like, oh, you put them on 50 grams of carbs. Like I wouldn't ram somebody up to 500 grams of carbs if they were training, you know, like a beginner in the gym. Right. So yeah. And then also it's very personal preference. If I have a couple of clients who are like 150 carb a day, males, 150 carb a day, 150 grams of fat, because they just thrive on more fat. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. It really comes down to personal preference. Whatever's going to make them adhere and they're getting progress, that's fine with it. But like the carb thing for performance, yeah, I don't think if we're not training super elite aggressive, then we don't need this astronomical amount of carbs. Yeah. So that might be the context that you were thinking about, Aaron. We'll figure it out. We'll go back. Just go back and try to figure out what video was, and I'll go back and look at it, see if I can provide some clarity.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions, fam?
So I had a question. So my client he's lost like over 100 pounds, he's stalling now. Excuse me, he's stalling now.
Is this the one that we talked about reversing for a bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I never got to reverse him because he got like super sick for a good amount of time. But just like recently he's gotten a little better. So now I'm in a position where he's doing he loves cardio, so he's doing like 35 minutes of cardio a day. Like
a day?
No, like 4 days a week, 4 or 5 days a week. And he's on 150 carbs, but he's not feeling very well. So now I'm like, okay, let's start to bump the food up. So I'm trying to figure out what to do with the cardio and the macros. Like as I bump his macros up, do I pull his cardio down or should I keep his cardio where it's at?
Yeah, I mean, dude, to be honest, like 35 minutes of cardio 4 times a week and 150 carb for a male lifestyle client, like that's pretty rough, dude. I would fucking wither away. Personally, I would wither away on that amount of food. So I wouldn't, obviously, like, you know, there's difference if you're like overweight, if you've, you know, taken steroids before, like all of those things do alter a lot of variables there. But I would 100%, like if we're going to reverse, I want to do it fully. I want to pull back cardio. I want to pull back stressors. I want to get food up. I want to get systems stable. So he may love cardio, but he probably loves making progress more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, that's not to say that we can't have cardio in the mix and still make progress. I would just personally prefer to lower that cardio a pretty decent amount. Like I'd be cool with a lifestyle client, you know, hitting 20 minutes of cardio 3 to 4 times a week. And if they want to keep that forever, that's fine. Once we start breaking into those 30, 35s, 40s, that wears you down quite a bit, especially if his food's low, his recovery is probably hindered, he's getting sick, he's not feeling the best. Like those are really important data points for us to be looking at. The systems are telling us, hey, you know, what we're doing is we're not feeling good doing this, so we need to do something different. Right. So I mean, I would say you could probably ramp up his food pretty quick. Usually with men, we can get away with some pretty large increases, like for the first couple of increases out of a deficit. Like we could probably bump, 200 to 300 calories first couple of weeks, and he should be able to hold that pretty well, to be honest.
Cool.
Yeah. Cool. Any other questions before we wrap up? Cool. All right, fam. Well, thanks for hopping on. Appreciate y'all. You guys got any other questions? Drop them in the Slack channel and we'll knock them out.